System riding to the core. Yeah. Reppin' inner city love.
This is the Inner City Love broadcast. Today is Tuesday, August 19th. I am Amin TMK alongside Emoja, Lil Tanky Sumler. Emoja, hello. Happy Tuesday. It's going up on a Tuesday. I hope folks understand the I Love McConan reference. Maybe they don't. I don't know. We're young people, so we stay in the mix. But how are you doing this Tuesday, man? Mid-August, summer may be coming to a close. Not the heat, but summer may be coming to a close.
The craziest thing about DC, man, everybody, man, they catching me everywhere. Text, motherfuckers sending me emails. Yo, man, just, homies calling like, yo, what's good in DC, man? Is you good, man? We just trying to check in on you, son. What's good? It's like, bruh, I'm in the Anacostia. Them niggas ain't out here, man. Fuck.
I think what happens is they definitely are in, they're in the apartments. They're in the lowest income areas that you can go to, because they know who to exploit. And, that's what it is. And we showed a lot about that on the last podcast. So please feel free to jump into that. But totally right. Here we go. Epstein files. Let's do a siege on the people.
Let's do it on the people.
We're doing it again. We're doing it again. We had it with
Justin Pass. He trying to get off this Epstein shit, and then he had to slang homeboy in Vegas that got caught up in the child sex thing, fly his ass back to Israel. And word on the street is that's the dude that worked for the Israel intelligence agency that got Grok shut down.
Yeah. There's lots of stuff on there.
The dude.
It's always LinkedIn, no job pun there. But anyway, let's. You want to talk about Friday? You want to talk about Alaska?
Let's do it.
You want to talk about Alaska? How about this is the meeting between Vladimir Putin, as Ray McGovern would say, and Donald Trump. This is them on the runway. Sorry, podcast listeners. But here is Trump doing his little clap. What is his body language, man?
Yeah, I mean, where you chest forward, it's weird, man. He got that weird stance, man.
And he does that smile that like all white people do, like the white women smile where they smile like this.
Yeah.
It's not really a smile. It's kind of a, what are you doing here? That white people smile like, he does it a lot.
That there's another thing he do, like in handshakes, he tried to pull you in because he kind of a big dude. But like people forget that like Putin is a what's that, Sambo black belt. So like you can see that Putin was already like ready to pull back. Like, nah, bro, you ain't you ain't doing those manhandle games with me. Crazy.
Yeah. So that happened. Let's talk about what if anything substantial happened on Friday during this meeting. Obviously, Zelensky also met this weekend. Correct me if I'm wrong, with the no tie suit that he had on. Where are we now after Friday when it comes to Russia and Ukraine? Are we closer anywhere? Are we further? Are we the same? What's up?
We're much further. We're much closer, but not for the reasons that people think. This is the thing about geopolitics. You have to look at what will be the resulting actions, right? If things happen, what will be the resulting actions? If you look at what the resulting actions are, you can work out who the real players are, right? The real players behind Putin and Trump meeting was not even in that photo. Once again, all roads lead back to Tel Aviv, right? What I saw, and this is, I'm starting to see more and more papers written about this. The person that's demanding that the Ukrainian war end is not Putin and it's not Trump. It's Bibi. They've given these people all of the time and the money that they want, right? As far as Israel is concerned, Israel wants to get its Greater Israel Project on. And for that, they need a larger land army. Essentially, what the papers are saying is Bibi is telling Trump to tell Zelensky, you've had long enough. It's not going to happen. Send me your army. And, again, we're talking about the Khazarian Republic. This is what Ukraine was. You know what I'm saying? So now you're talking about 250,000 blooded Azov Ashkenazi, right? And you can even see this, right? Because there's been an uptick in promotion coming out of Israel about, advertising, for Jews around the world to return to Israel and help, replenish the leagues of the IDF. Because, again, their losses have been way higher than they've been willing to admit. But more importantly, to go to the next phase of what they need to do, they need a much larger, trained, blooded army that knows how to conduct contemporary warfare. There's no better army at their disposal than the Ukrainian army. The other thing about that is that will then allow, with a ceasefire there or with that resolved in Ukraine, all of that NATO air defense, right, to now go to Israel. Because the problem is, and this is the irony of not being aware of your supply chains, right? It took so much missile defense in the 12-day engagement between Israel and Iran that Israel still has not been able to replenish its air defense because what's at the end of the supply chain? Rare earth element magnets that are only processed in China. So when Trump started this trade war, that was the thing that the Chinese held back, right? They're like, okay, well, if we can't buy semiconductors and microprocessors on the open market, we will remove from you. And see, we talked about this on our broadcast several months ago, right? Like China was starting to get the upper hand in this trade war, which is why they tried to switch it up and make it tariffs. But you need those rare earth element minerals for honestly, from military tech, right? So many missiles, missile defense, all of that rocket technology. You need those rare earth elements to do that. They haven't been able to overcome what has been taken off the market just based on the bellicose nature of Trump, how he approached China. So now Israel, their plans are not stopping. They still need to move forward. Where's the only place left on earth where you can get a whole lot of NATO air defense? Ukraine. So they need that wrapped up. So all that stuff and all those soldiers can go to Israel and they can re-begin. Once again, this war with Iran is not over. It is a pause at best. Now, both sides are hurrying to get all of their forces in play for the next phases. You saw the Americans make their move with the Azerbaijanis and the Armenians on that northern border with Iran. Now you see Israel making their moves, right? Trying to reinforce their ground army, right? All of this is happening and none of it is in a vacuum. This just goes to show you how far from power someone like Zelensky really is. Like decisions are being made over his head that he has no say about and no control over. Even, as we've said, there are protests that are still happening all throughout Ukraine. And now even members of the Ukrainian parliament are saying, Zelensky doesn't speak for me. You know what I'm saying? So, Ursula von der Leyen of the EU doesn't speak for me. They don't speak for Ukrainians. 69% of Ukrainians want the war to end now.
When you say something like wrap it up, what does that look like?
It looks like you get what you get. You can't. It's no
Are you saying
longer,
that we're going to say they're going to say all the regions that you've taken from the Donbass are now Russia? No issues. We're now Zelensky's going to leave. They're going to be demilitarized, denatofied. I mean, is that essentially what you mean when it says wrap up? Because
that's what happens, right? This is the conversation that Trump is having, with Putin. If they're saying denazification of Ukraine, removal of those Azov people with a pact never to return to Ukraine nicely does that, doesn't it? Well, I did what you asked. I took those Azov Nazis away from Ukraine. We have effectively denazified, and they'll never say what happened to them. And all of a sudden, the IDF will be pumped full of pictograms and stronger than ever. And this will truly make them formidable on the ground, because this is an army that has faced the world's best army. You know, nobody has any idea what the Iranian army looks like in battle. The last time they saw a real battle was against essentially Saddam Hussein, you know what I'm saying, in the 80s, and they weren't that good. You know what I'm saying? Like, whatever about the revolutionary forces, that's a different section. Like, the Iranian military is a mess. I mean, there's the official Iranian military, there's the Revolutionary Guard, aka the Quds Force, you know what I'm saying? And they're totally different forces. You know, the Revolutionary Guard is much better at offense. Like, they're the ones that were handling all the missile strikes and all of that, right? But a land battle, that would be fought by ostensibly the Iranian army. You know, a sea battle, that will be fought ostensibly by the Iranian Navy. And these are relatively untested forces. You know what I'm saying? Like, other than skirmishes against ISIS, which is a very different type of thing than see my 250,000 strong land army in the field. See me right now. Like, that's more than what the Revolutionary Guard can do. The official military of Iran will be obligated to engage, and no one has any real idea what their capability is.
A lot of people hit us up over the last year or so. Years, I mean, of course, and they're like, oh, you know, this. I saw this thing at my job, or I saw this thing with one of the contracts that I work with, or I saw this thing on the news, or people around me are saying this, and they're saying, oh, we're getting ready for something. Something big is about to happen. And I think you're looking at, with the corridor in Azerbaijan and Armenia being, opened up for a potential offensive against Iran. This meeting on Friday, which, again, I'm not convinced all the way that there's going to be a wrap up here. We'll see. The proof is in the pudding, and how this is all going to work out, and if even Putin and all them are going to be okay with that. But it does look like people are getting ready. They're getting ready for, in a lot of ways, the battle for hegemony. And, you know, there are shifting alliances. We talked about, you know, sort of the United States not really having any allies, only vassal states, you know, and you got to think of geopolitics as the collective West with America at the top, but that also includes places like Japan, places like South Korea, okay, and so on and so forth, more than just that. And then you have sort of the budding, global South and led by China, but also Russia and Israel have many ties as well. I mean, there's a lot wrapped up in a lot of this stuff, and that's why we try to do the best we can to talk about it all. But it does seem as if something has to give, because when you look at Petrovsk and these big areas left, these big cities in Ukraine, they are falling, and they're falling quickly. And the reason why it's very troublesome and troubling is that there aren't a lot of big fortified cities left, that it's a clear path to Kyiv. And there has to be a negotiation, and it has to be now, or it might not be another Ukraine. Now, and like you said, yeah, go ahead.
One further wrinkle that's been happening over the last week, which goes back to what both were saying, right, and even further solidifies the potential that the Azov is going to be leased out to the IDF, is a lack of ground troops that the Russians have fallen. Like, when they went into Pokrovsk, they were able to travel much further because they were essentially no infantry. They were able to walk into prepared positions that the Ukrainians just didn't even have men to field. But what the Russians did run into was laws. Lots and lots of laws. As they were coming out of Pokrovsk, they were seeing literally killer robots firing
laws, lethal autonomous weapon systems.
Terminator shit. You know what I'm saying? Hunter seekers, whatever you need. You know what I'm saying? Drones, and also land robots, right? That's what they were running into, to the point whereas the Russian infantry was forced to fall back, right, and find a defensible position because they were equipped to fight humans. They were not equipped to fight laws, lethal autonomous weapon systems, right? So the fact that where did all the soldiers go? Yes, many of them have been killed, but also it looks like they're being reassigned, right? And they've given NATO has given them their latest trick, and it's just another innovation on the battlefield, but it's a very dangerous escalation.
Yeah. Let's move on. This was something that you pointed my attention to, something that I thought was very interesting. And that right here is a human rights violation report that's put out here by China. Apparently, they've been doing this for some time, but I wanted to put this up here because just take a look. Okay, I just have the contents up here. Please feel free to read this on your own. I'll try to put the link in the description. Do we want to go through this and see where there's lies? Because I hear all the time about the human rights violations in China, and Xinjiang, and Hong Kong, and watch out, guys, the Uyghurs, and all these other things. But here we have a list of receipts. Okay, again, these are just a table of contents. You can go ahead and read it on your own. The first one, and then maybe you want to go through these one by one, maybe?
I mean, what I had was I have just a little bit of their abstract. So I'm just going to read a little bit of the abstract word for word. Money controls United States politics with partisan interest above voter rights. The total spending for the 2024 U.S. election cycle exceeded $15.9 billion United States dollars, once again setting a new record for the high cost of American political campaigns. Interest groups operating in the gray areas beyond the effective reach of current United States campaign laws used money to wantonly manipulate fundamental logic and actual functioning of United States politics. The Republican and the Democratic parties both manipulate electoral districts in highly distorted ways to choose their voters while meticulously designating voter compositions that favor their own chances of winning. The United States Supreme Court, in a 6-3 decision, overturned a lower court ruling that found redistricting plans suppressed the voting rights of African American voters, effectively endorsing political actions that suppress voter participation. The Supreme Court decision, in fact, backed political action that suppressed the political voters. 24 states have passed voter suppression laws, while 17 states have passed new or stricter voter ID laws. As a result, large groups such as the elderly, minorities, people with disabilities, low-income voters, and students face limited or deprived opportunities to exercise their right to vote. Extreme incidents of political violence occurred frequently.
Yeah, and this is on the same day that Trump has basically said we're getting rid of the vote-in system. We're getting rid of the drop-off ballot, mail-in voting ballots, which, again, they wanted to do. And it goes to your point of mail-in ballots, drop-off ballots favor Democrats sometimes, often. So you want to get rid of that for the simple reason that it hurts your opponent. And that's really not a democracy. That's there's voting involved.
As to who it favors, it's the kind of people that utilize those kind of votes. It doesn't, because, those people are not going to continue to vote Democrat for long. So it doesn't really matter. You know what I'm saying? It's not like, they're trying to disenfranchise Democrats. They don't want those people voting, period. People that mail in votes, all of those things, right? Because those type of people are the people that are falling out of the margins the most, as a rule. And if they vote, there's no guarantee those votes are going to continue to be Republican or Democrat. Those votes more and more are trending toward the extremes. Libertarians, green, I mean extremes only among the perspective of like what the American spectrum of voting looks like. They're no longer reliable Republican or Democrat voters.
Yeah, I mean, the Libertarians and Green Party got like 2% of the vote, so I don't know how much they're really worried about them. I do think that there are stats on the board right now that are saying that like Democrats consistently are more likely to vote for, the ballots, the mail-in ballots, the drop-off ballots and things like that. But, we don't really know. I mean, I think it goes to the point of you will use whatever leverage you can to maintain your power. And they get at people like Putin and they get at people like Xi Jinping because they've been in leadership, for 20 plus years. And that's just been the norm in society over the last Like only in the last
Yeah.
100 years and stuff with term limits and all this stuff where people not being like a leader of a country for 20 years plus. I mean, that's just what it is. And again, if you are a leftist and you watch our podcast, you watch our broadcast and you see what we talk about, you know that elections in Russia are not rigged. So I don't want to hear that. These people are voting for Vladimir Putin, and the second most, populous voting bloc is for the literal communists. So
the Communist Party of Russia, yeah.
There's no need for this dictatorship and blah, 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 because that is what the Western media loves to throw at you. Putin is the worst person ever. And you're seeing here, because there's no elections in Russia, there's no political blah, blah, blah. In Mexico, 30 people have been killed running for blah, blah, blah. This is the worst democracy. This is the most manipulated. Yeah, go ahead.
And people see it, right? This is the thing. This is the advantage, right, of multipolarity. This is why, of course, especially disenfranchised and marginalized people need to cheer, right, for a multipolar world, because these kind of things that happen all the time here, no one could talk about it. We always hear about, the Chinese excess against the Uyghurs, right, the imaginary Uyghur genocide, while we have to ignore the actual genocide happening in the Levant. But like with papers like this, they're putting those stats out for the world. No one can say they didn't know. I mean, it talks about how there's a culture of violence in the United States, and it's deeply ingrained in its law enforcement. It gives the numbers. It talks about how in 2024 alone, the police shootings claimed more than 1,300 lives, right? It talked about how police violence affected 300,000 individuals annually, right? Like people are writing about these things and putting them out there for the world to talk about, right? So there's no longer just this mythology of the United States as some type of arbiter of morality. And the concept that the United States had any type of audacity to be the arbiter of morality when they are the largest committer of genocide the world has ever known. I mean, just recently, within the last 20 years, the Americans killed over 1 million Iraqis. Like the Israelis are still putting up rookie numbers compared to what America does. This is to say nothing of the American carceral state, nothing of the misogyny and the culture of violence against women, which again also is talked about in this paper. Like it's all there. Like people are breaking this down in a way that is intellectually researched and peer reviewable.
And you don't need propaganda to do it. You just look at it and there's the receipt right there.
Because there's empirical evidence behind all of this.
Yeah, it's not feelings. It's not manufactured. It's like, oh, wow, y'all, this is happening. It's pretty crazy, right? Are there any other abstracts any other of these you wanted to focus on maybe before we, moved on? Or we can just keep, railing on how terrible the United States is. I have some more stuff here.
I mean, we can move on. I mean, the last thing I will say about it is it talked about also the culture of racism in America. And it talked about how it's literally embedded from the ground up, right? Like, that's just fascinating that people in the world still see this. They still know it, right? Whereas in America, they'll gaslight you and they'll find the one black guy who's like, I believe that black people are responsible for all of the violence that happens to themselves.
Oh, right, on the document, the debates with Amanda Seals and all that.
Right. I mean, and it's like she's some kind of bastion of the left, by the way. I mean, like these are such wiffle ball questions. Like anyone with any understanding of this understands that violence often happens within a demographic. Black people harm black people because they're around black people. White people harm white people because they're around white people. Chinese people harm Chinese people because, right, there's no specific evil that's built into black people where it's like, oh, we must kill our own, right? Like, and again, these are just wiffle ball questions that anyone that's done any type of research should be able to immediately dispel. I mean, like just swatting it out of the way like a fly, But the rest of the world sees this. They don't gaslight us. They acknowledge that oppression in the United States is as real now as it ever has been without over glorifying the few exceptional great, the black excellence that okay, LeBron has a pretty good life. So I guess racism is gone in America because, one person is worth $100 million. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I just
and it's
find it
pretty
fascinating.
hilarious to me when people are like, "Oh, there's racism in China." Like they're racist against black people in China. It's like, are you really like? First of all, racism is based off systems, right, and controls of power, right? Like, I mean, that's built off racist systems. There's not a racist system in China because, I mean, there's no. First of all, Chinese people are, in general, like, I hate to be generalities, they're just nicer people. They're just better people. They had a revolution in where they killed or they at least pushed out all the Western backed drug dealers of Chiang Kai-shek. Okay. And they built a incredible society. That's just the proof in the pudding. Look, let's show them this.
As a Southerner, I would say there's a difference between politeness, which Americans pretend to be, right, and kindness, which is an Asian culture in general. Let's do it.
Let's just take a look at this because, again, I don't want it to be about feelings. I don't want it to be about, like, they say this thing with the left. Well, the leftists just hate everything America and they live in black and white. What are you talking about? We live in reality, man.
How many Americans can say since 2012 that, I don't know, their per capita disposable income has went up by 2.5? How many people can say they're no longer in poverty, whereas 99 million people were wiped out of poverty, have been moved out of poverty? How many people in America can say, oh, my God, the wilderness in America, it's getting better. It's getting, how many people can say, oh, my God, there's so much more renewable energy in my state. I can use that. Does not happening here. But that is happening in the world. These are statistics that can be observed, they can be critiqued, but they can't be denied.
Last week or 2 weeks ago, what do I know? Time as we record it is a human construct, but we talked about, this was something that Marjorie Taylor Greene, the worst person you know, made a good point, about Americans that are 30 years and younger that have a home and a life partner. And in the 1950s, that was 50% of America. And in 2025 or 2024, that's 12%. That's a problem. That's a stat that if we were to look at home ownership in China, it's in 70%. And most people who don't own homes are young people who are just interested in living in apartments and stuff in the city. Xi Jinping literally said, homes are for living, not for speculation. Could you imagine if the president of the United States said something that radical? That's, first of all, that's beyond even a Green Party a platform, and it's just to kind of show you, like, it's not that I have this particular feeling. It's that the proof is here. It's receipts. Let's take a look at this, and then I'm going to give the floor to you because you were just talking about Washington, D.C. earlier today and the ridiculousness, okay, and the dystopian world that we have to traverse every day. And these are, again, the United States is pushing 900,000 homeless. Okay. And the fact of the matter is that the number is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger every year. So this is in DC. Okay. And this is them. They're cleaning up. They're taking homes off the street. People have nowhere else to go. We still don't know where they're at. We still don't know what's happening to these people. Again, you talked about sort of the carceral community, the people who have to remain in prison and the way that they're treated, the human rights violations that they face. People who are homeless are facing so many human rights violations here in the United States. And I forget who it was. I think it was one of the presidents of one of the oceanic countries who literally went to China and was like, y'all, there's no homeless people here. In a country of 1.5 billion, there's no homeless people here. In a city of 20 million plus people, there's no homeless people here. Wow. Your thoughts?
Again, it just goes to the essence of who Western government is meant to serve, right? In the West, the government is meant to serve the needs of capital. not the needs of people. And this is why socialism is an important but a dangerous concept in the West, because socialism talks about the needs of the people, right? Again, it elevates the welfare state as opposed to the warfare state. And that's the antithesis of what the West represents, right? Homelessness is a personal failure in the West, whereas in China, homelessness is a indictment on the system. In the West, where you have done everything to criminalize workers' rights, where there are states that are literally right to work, which means they can fire you because you wore your hair down today, and that's it. And you're not going to get unemployment. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's that. How do you react to that? Like, as a culture, right? When understanding that most people are 2 paychecks away from homelessness, there isn't this great, that's maybe one of the greatest ironies of being in this clout culture era where everybody looks like they're doing great. Everybody's got designer, everybody's got expensive shoes, right? Because it's all on margin, baby. It's all on your credit cards. You out there because you gotta look like you're doing good. And when it starts to go bad for you, it goes bad really fast. That is the American culture.
Straight Bernie Madoff.
It's seen as right.
You make it seem you make it seem like you got it. I think Mike Epps had a joke about it, where it's like, when you got money, you don't want people to know that you got money. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, I see you doing well. There's a little something slight, ain't much going on. But when somebody calls you, right? Exactly. I'm trying to get like you. But when you're broke and someone calls you broke, you be like, you don't know what I got. You don't know what I'm rolling with. Because you can't give off the aura of I'm broke. You can't get a job. And it's a
real middle class / lower class trapping, because the wealthy do not engage in life like this. Yeah. Like Sam Walton, before he died, and he died back when $25 billion was an extraordinary amount of money. By the way, it still is, right? He drove a beat up pickup truck every day and fired executives and went out buying Lamborghinis, because like, how can we get these people to work for pennies when they watching, the chief executive officer, chief finance officer drive around a $3 million car? The truly wealthy don't even flaunt their wealth like that, because it will be damaging to the system. No one wants to see that. You work in 3 jobs, and your Toyota is about to get, repoed. If you cannot hustle up this extra $300 this week. Meanwhile, people driving by in Bugattis and such, like, the truly wealthy understand they don't even display their wealth like that. They're not ostentatious in the way that middle class and lower class people strive to be, just because poverty is so traumatizing. You never want people to know how bad it really is.
Yeah, well said. Let's give a shout out to our podcast listeners, because we're available everywhere you find podcasts: Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We in there. We out there. InnerCityLeft.com, Fables, Foibles, and Other American Sins. Be about it. New music dropping tomorrow. Let's package. Again, I just want to remind people, we geopolitics, we act professional and all that stuff, but we rough around the edges, man. I don't know how the vibe is that we put off here. Some people are like, oh, come to my little thing. And it's like, dude, I'm rough around the edges, man. Don't just invite me to any nonprofit situation, because you don't really know how liable I am to react. And I won't even say anything about Tank. I'll let him describe it for himself. But I do appreciate y'all. Let's give a shout out to our podcast listeners. I'm sorry, our Patreons, because patrons, because y'all, we really appreciate y'all. We're over 100. That's pretty nice. And it is quite humbling. And I will probably say, I don't know, Tanky maybe could speak on it. I don't know how this broadcast would look without y'all. Yeah, so I really appreciate the patrons. And those are my thoughts. Tanky, what do we miss? What are your thoughts?
Don't listen to me. I'm a nerd. I don't really know nothing about nothing.
What is that? That's not good for our Patreon bottom line, man. You have to up your vibe. You know it all, man. You know it all. And I think the people see that you're putting in work and that we're putting in work. And we don't want to bring no bullshit. I don't bring social issues here. We bring real issues. We bring real life geopolitics in your face, because
you have to understand what's happened geopolitically around the world, because what they do out there is what they will do here. And no
You know how
matter
they
how
always
bad
say,
you
like,
think it is here, it's way worse out there. They grabbing dudes off the street in Ukraine, bruh. If they doing that there, if Trump is watching Zelensky do that there, and he's seen as a hero all around the world, yeah, that's support Zelensky. He never seen no oppression that he didn't want to do himself. If they doing it there, they will do it here. And this is why geopolitics matters.
yeah. And you know how they always say, like, oh, everyone has a boss. Like, everyone has a boss. Like, that's true to the point of geopolitics, because the bosses make nation states move, you know, and everyone is really just working sort of underneath that. Anyway, I think that's enough for today. Much love to y'all. For Emoji Lil Tanky Summer, I am Amin TMK. This is the Inner City Left broadcast. You know what it is, y'all. Peace.
System riding to the core. Yeah. Reppin' inner city left.